Hello and welcome to Broads and Books. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy, and this is episode number 77, Born This Way.
Little Lady Gaga for you. Mm-hmm. Love this song. I
really love this song too.
Everything Lady Gaga does.
Do you remember this video? Because I rewatched it. Holy crap. It's graphic.
Yes, it is.
There is a lot of simulated birth. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of, what else? There's a lot of fluids and mucuses.
There is. It's an odd decision for, a visual.
Yeah.
But
there's a backstory, like she's got narration going and
yes.
I don't know if it's really related to the song, but I like it. It's go for it.
It's her.
Lady Gaga.
It just fits.
Yeah.
And so it's the perfect song, both her and the song, for the theme of uniqueness.
Yes.
Celebrating what's unique about you.
And this felt good.
It did.
Celebrating some uniqueness.
Uniqueness. It's important.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, everything's a sea of khaki.
So I think some of our, questions might be about just being unique, being different. Because wouldn't you say, do you think we're unique, Erin?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I mean, I'm not going to lie and say I don't do things to blend in, but I hope that for the most part, people are like, that's an odd duck.
I would take that as a badge of honor.
Yeah. That's what I think. I imagine an actual badge that says odd duck
on it, like a duck's head.
With two heads, because it's odd.
Yeah. Could it be like Donald Duck on the bottom, just no pants?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be, right?
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I immediately thought of DuckTales because Mason is obsessed with DuckTales.
Is he?
Yeah.
Isn't there a new DuckTales out? Is that what he's obsessed with? Mm-hmm. Do you know who one of the voices is on that?
What?
Jean-Ralphio from Parks and Rec.
What?
Because I follow him on Instagram, and he's talking about it all the time.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I got to be honest with you. I haven't watched a lot of the episodes with him. He enjoys it, and I let him.
Yeah, good. Because it doesn't sound great.
He has all the stuffies now, though. That was like a
what
thing.
What are stuffies?
Like stuffed animals. He calls them stuffies. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, stuffed animals. That
I was like, what are the youths doing now?
Yeah, no, that's. I don't know if that's everyone. That's a specific Mason thing.
The youths are in trouble.
He really wanted all the DuckTales stuffies.
Does he have them all now? Mm-hmm. What does he do with the stuffies?
He mainly sleeps with them.
Oh, okay.
They sit in his bed.
Okay.
He sometimes pretends to play school with them, or they go on adventures. But yeah.
I was gonna say I'm curious what goes on in his head, but I don't know if we want to go there. That's a dark place.
It took him all summer and a little bit into the fall to earn them all because it was a reward system. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So was it rewards based on lovies, like Mike got into trouble with a while back?
Lovies are free with me. He freely gives them. So mine was for doing things, not what you're supposed to do, but just maybe I noticed you did something above and beyond for someone, or you were extra great when we went somewhere and I didn't have to,
You're such a good mom with positive reinforcement.
Take you to the bathroom and beat you. Just kidding.
The juxtaposition of my statement with yours.
Such a good
comedy gold.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I don't beat them. I just reward them with DuckTales stuffies.
Ugh. Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, I think one thing that may be unique of us is thinking about what we really don't like.
Yes.
And maybe what even might be our personal hells. I know we've both watched the show The Good Place. Mm-hmm. They have really unique versions of hell. Mm-hmm. What do you think is your personal version of hell?
My personal version of hell is just a very vanilla, just everything's muted tones, monotone.
Okay.
And we're in an awkward either meeting or moment that won't end. It just never ends.
Oh, God, yeah.
And you're continuing, in my version of hell, I would keep saying things that I wish I wouldn't say. I say something and I'm like, why did I do that?
Yes.
I say something, why did I do that?
Yeah. And then you're not allowed the debrief afterwards where you can talk to Mike about can you believe I just said this?
Right.
Or can you believe what they just said?
No, because it never ends.
It never ends.
Either. And maybe in the version of hell, new people come in every once in a while, but they're still terrible.
So it's just
not
small talk forever. Mm-hmm. Oh, God. Mm-hmm. That's really bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes me want to crawl out of my skin right now thinking about it.
It really does.
Yeah. What would your version of hell be?
I mean, kind of similar. I'm picturing half the day is just video calls all day long.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And then the other half is icebreakers and games.
I should have known. down. I didn't even see it coming. Yes.
Cheesy, get to know you icebreakers, followed by other games, especially those that involve some sort of physical activity.
So summer camp.
Yes.
Okay.
Dear God, yes. Ugh, it sounds just terrible.
It does. I mean, in that context.
Yeah, I feel like I'm sinking into hell right now, just even thinking about it, just having to do that all day long.
No, come back.
Oh, boy. Another just out of nowhere question, which
you know
because you came up with these questions. What's the weirdest crush you've ever had on a fictional character?
Okay, this is
going to show your uniqueness, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And I want to preface this. No, I don't. Because there's really no explanation.
Okay.
I had a huge crush. I was young. I was like elementary school. And I think it was like replayed on some channel, but I had a huge crush on Herman Munster.
Okay. Okay.
It makes no sense. He's a large Frankenstein that is awkward and is weird and not attractive, but I had a huge crush on him. And I still kind of feel weird about it. Like I still feel a little off that I had that big of a crush. Because even when I see him now, like Halloween, sometimes they show him and I get weirded out. Like, oh, that was weird.
There is a lot there that I want to dig into. One follow-up question. The guy that played Herman Munster was in My Cousin Vinny. He was the judge. Did you have the same reaction to him then?
No.
Okay.
No.
So it needed to be makeup and Frankenstein
It was the Frankenstein,
getup. Okay. That's even...
It's worse, right? Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. It's a uniqueness that is unique, but also suspect. So,
what do you think that that has led your life to be? Like, what can you attribute to that weird crush in your life? Anything in particular?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure there's
your
something
preference for true crime
that I don't maybe
that you loved Frankenstein.
I guess
pretty much.
But he was kind of a bumbling idiot. Like he was just kind of genuine and nice.
Maybe you saw yourself up there. Like, oh,
that could be.
He's klutzy. He's
a lovable outcast.
No, this isn't going good either.
No.
I'm not good at this psychological analysis. First off, and then
huge
second. Is that a good thing? Was that part of the crush?
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Not sure.
Wow.
I know.
You know what I would really love is if some listeners would write in and tell us what this means. Like,
that'd
why?
be great. Yes.
Oh my God, that'd
Help
be
me
so helpful.
Decode why this was the thing.
Yeah, because I'm out. I don't know.
I don't either. I've thought about it a lot, more than a person should, and I have yet to come up with a solid reason why that would happen. So.
Well, I'm sorry for you for that experience, but also, I mean, maybe it made you who you are today.
Yeah, if it contributed in some way, I guess I'll accept it.
Yeah, there you go.
Herman Munster. If you had to write your life as a movie trailer in one sentence, what would that be?
Well, first I'm imagining the movie theater or the trailer voice, right?
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
in
for
a
sure.
world.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, in a world of fake smiles, one woman couldn't control her face. Really, it's for both of us.
Oh, that's good.
It's really for both of us.
Yeah. I want you to add chaos ensued at the end of it.
Well, that's good. So at the end, it'd be like one woman couldn't control her face and chaos reigned.
Yeah. Because that's always,
man.
this is a thing that the youths don't remember, but when you used to go to like Blockbuster and read the back, they would always end with like chaos ensued,
That's
hilarity
true.
ensued,
That's true,
hijinks ensued,
yeah, love ensued. Ooh, that's a good point.
That is really good.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
Maybe we should make a little trailer of that. Yeah. With some video and
I like that idea.
And basically that will be our podcast trailer because that's us.
That's just it. That's our podcast.
People will listen to it and be like, well, I am not following what this podcast is about. Where do the books come in?
Are there books?
Who are the ladies?
They can't control their faces and they read.
And then we don't see their faces. So what is this thing that I'm listening to?
So why are you referring to your face again? Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it.
Confusion ensued.
Just listen to the podcast. Stop overthinking everything.
Oh boy. Well, anytime we can talk about a Lady Gaga song is a great time.
It's a great day already.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I found some stuff very quickly on this.
I did too.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard.
No, I think maybe that's a sign of how much good literature out there is about being unique and not being, just a normal person that has a fake smile.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So for my fiction pick, I chose a book called Middlesex. Your face just transformed. You've read this, right?
I almost picked it.
Did you really?
Like literally, I was between two books and I ended up picking the other one, but I almost picked that book.
What? Ride or die. Yeah.
So obviously I concur with your decision on this
is
theme.
Amazing. Okay, great. Then you can contribute to this discussion as well. So this comes from 2003.
Yep.
Jeffrey Eugenides. Eugenides?
Sure.
I'm just going to you it.
Yeah, you do
and
it.
hopefully
You're
one of
way
them
better
is
at
right.
pronunciation, so I don't know why you're looking at me because mine would be way off.
So in this book, the main character of the story is Calliope, who is a young person in the 1960s in Detroit. But really, it's about more than that. It's about 3 generations of this family, this Greek-American family starting in a very tiny village in the 1920s that's destroyed by the Turks, and then the family moving to Prohibition-era Detroit, and then 60s era Grosse Pointe, the suburb of Grosse Pointe. And the reason there are 3 generations told is because Calliope is a very unique person. When born, the doctor declares Calliope is a girl. But over time, the truth becomes much more complicated. And at age 14, Calliope discovers what intersex means. And of course, this is the 1970s at this point, so this is completely shrouded in shame and secrecy. It's called hermaphrodite. It's called freak, pretty much. Even the doctors themselves, the doctors that the family goes to, a little leery about this. Many doctors are not accepting of this. The book is told from around 2000, the year 2000, in Berlin, when Calliope has become Cal. And he tells the whole crazy genetic story that started back with his grandparents in that tiny village in Greece. This is a big, epic type book, which I don't know if we really have these much anymore. I don't know if, because the copy I have, it's like 550 pages.
Yeah, it's big.
It's I don't know if we see this much anymore, but this would be the perfect one if you have a few days off, maybe holidays coming up. This would be the perfect one just to sink into this whole world. I remember I read this when it came out. But then I read it again recently because I got a copy from Thrift Books.
Oh,
and like $4, and I was like, "Here we go, let's do this."
See, that was my main hesitation. I haven't reread it, and I just couldn't. I tried to get back into it, and then I'm like, I don't know if I'm missing too much. I would need to reread it. So interesting. Okay.
I think it's interesting to see. Again, this was written early 2000s. It'd be interesting to see, or it is interesting to see our culture now versus then. I think at the time that I first read this, I was a bit confused about the main character. I was confused about the notion of intersex. I wasn't quite clear on what was really happening here. I didn't really understand any sort of existence outside the gender binary. Now, I think because I'm older, because, more experience in the world, many more different types of friends, but also because the culture has advanced significantly, I returned to this. And I almost returned to it a little afraid. Like, is this going to be dated? Is this going to be like, this is a guy writing this? This is, what's this going to be like? But I really enjoyed it. I think it was ahead of its time in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And I chose it for this theme because I think Calliope is the definition of unique, very unique person. It takes a lot of time and struggle, but finding himself as Cal is a process of coming to terms with, understanding, celebrating his uniqueness. And I think it's a super touching story, very moving. Each generation that we get to know, we feel very close to. We want the best for these folks, and especially Calliope/Cal. You're going to feel some feelings. Feel all the feels. Just let it happen. Sink into it.
Yes.
And enjoy. What would you add from what you remember of this?
That's the same thing. I remember when I read it that I loved it. And I remember that feeling of, like you said, it's big, but you feel so immersed in it and you don't want it to end. And it's great because you get to see so much and learn so much. But yeah, I'm super interesting to me that you reread it and you think, because that was what my concern was that I remember loving it. I remember thinking, oh, this is amazing. But then I thought, oh, does it still stand up? Or, is there going to be some cringy stuff that I don't want to, we've come a lot farther. So, but I love that. I'm so glad to hear that it does still hold up. And
this was my experience. Maybe some other people will feel that it's dated, that it's not quite, doesn't quite go far enough. And I completely understand that. I felt like it was really good. And he's a phenomenal writer.
He is.
So it's such a great experience to read this and to get to know these people.
But when I thought of Unique, this came to my head right away, because the whole story is really centered on how unique this story is.
Yeah. And unique about this specific genetic mutation, as well as this specific person, this specific family. Just kind of unique all over.
Very much so. Well, great choice.
Ride or die.
I cannot believe that. That would have been so weird if we had both what a weird pick from 2003 for us both to pick.
And the way that your face transformed, you had like a look of confusion and like recognition at the same time, and like, you're not going to believe this.
Yeah. I was like, what? No way.
Yeah.
No way. No way.
Well, it happened.
Well, I picked, you know what? We've been saying that my double picks are rare, and I don't know if we can keep saying that, because this is a double pick author
one?
again.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, you like who you like. You follow them.
And you know what? I think that sometimes when an author has a really big bestseller, that people's tendency is to say, oh, probably their other books aren't as good. And you lose track of their back catalog because you didn't know anything about them prior to that. So if this is the case for you with Celeste Ng, who wrote Little Fires Everywhere, the first book that I read from her was Everything I Never Told You. And it's a quick little novel, and it is beautiful, and it is heartbreaking, and it's funny, and it's everything that you want in one little. And from that moment on, I was like, she is a phenomenal writer. Like, she's got it. So the book opens with this line: Lydia is dead, but they don't know this yet. Yeah. And so immediately, obviously, you're gripped in. And it's this novel about a Chinese American family that's living in the 1970s in a small town in Ohio. So Marilyn and James Lee, their daughter Lydia is like their shining star. She does everything right. She gets good grades. She's going places. She's the one that they want to live through. Like, she's going to do everything that they couldn't. And this whole dream is shattered when Lydia is found dead in the local lake. Because of that, the family is cracked open, and we get to see these intimate portraits of all of them, of how they're dealing with this and what their feelings about Lydia, how they were so wrapped up in their own feelings about themselves. So even though this is like an impossible thing to reconcile with, they're all kind of like taking you on this journey of their own responsibility in it. So the first part, we learn about the dreams that the mom Marilyn had, that she didn't necessarily want to be a stay-at-home mom. She has very vivid memories of her mom and kind of the feelings of almost being put upon. A lot of them related to cooking and this family cookbook. And her, in her mind, thinking, I'm never going to do this. I'm going to break out. I'm going to do something different. To only end up in America and feel like she has to do it a certain way or it's not going to work. And she has to sacrifice for her husband to be successful or it's not going to work. And then we learn about James Lee, the husband, who, you know, when we're looking through Marilyn's eyes, seems like he has everything. He got to do everything and she didn't. But then we learn about all the sacrifices he made and the pressure he's under to be successful so that the family looks good and that the family can continue to be successful. And even though he's been able to have this career, he doesn't have the pinnacle of the career that he wants. And so he really pushes Lydia all the time when she was alive because he thinks he knows you have to do more, you have to do better. That's the theme. Her siblings, in particular her brother, are shaped by the pressure that her success places on them to achieve the exact same thing, or the fact that they're almost disappointing to some degree because they don't achieve the same level. So I picked it for this theme because it's emotional and relatable, but it's also really shows both sides of this theme to me. Like, it shows the status quo where we often celebrate this idea that we shouldn't show our uniqueness, that you need to blend in, and especially for families that aren't traditional or don't fulfill the traditional American dream like we've talked about. There's this pressure to achieve a certain something, even though no one can really define that.
Yeah.
And to do that, a lot of times I feel like you have to push your uniqueness down or give that up. But it also shows how one person's uniqueness and one person's own ideas can change everyone around them and can send ripple effects through a family, through a community, through a thought process, how that one person can change so much. And I think in that way, it's oddly enough, it's, a child dies, but it's a book almost about hope.
Wow.
And about the idea that we all individually can be responsible for something, and we all individually can make change, even if it's a small change, and that can have an effect on lots of people around us. So it's beautiful. It's wonderful. If you liked Little Fires Everywhere, or if you haven't read anything by her, this is a great way to get into it. It's wonderful. It's a delight.
Double picks.
Double pick. She's worth it.
Yeah. I think we need to go through our back list, see how many double picks you have, because you've had a string of them recently.
I have. Yeah. I've had a string.
Maybe part of it is you're going back to authors that are going to give you something good.
I think that's true. I did read in this time where we've talked about reading being a little off. I have read a lot of authors that I already knew I liked their stuff. Like I didn't have the emotional bandwidth for another disappointment. So I just said, I'm going to go with the known.
I can't handle the unknown.
Yeah.
I need the known.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fascinating. I also liked that you kind of touched on like how uniqueness and the American dream might be at odds with each other.
Absolutely.
Is that what you were kind of getting from the book,
I think
too?
they have to be. I mean, one really doesn't exist with the other.
Yeah.
I think that the American dream sells it, that somehow you're fulfilling something and that makes you unique. But no, the reality is you have to blend.
Yeah, you have to blend.
You have to want the same thing as everyone else.
Yep. And if you don't, or if you're a different kind of human being than what the American dream is, you're out.
It's not going to work.
Nope.
Yeah. No uniqueness here.
Yeah.
Blend.
If you can't control your face,
blend.
You are out.
You are out. You're basically like the remnant, the cult from The Leftovers. You're all in white and that's it.
For some reason, it was taking my brain a minute. Be like, the remnant, leftovers. Got it.
Yes.
All the smoking.
No speaking.
No speaking.
Weird cult.
That was a weird cult.
Yeah. Cult leaders, sometimes you have a lot of power to get people to do some things. Why wouldn't you do something useful? Like, in this cult, we only bake banana bread. Like, we'll eat other things, but there will always be banana bread.
I like that continually you return to cults or religions being centered around food.
Well, yeah, that's the only purpose I see that it could serve. True. That would be beneficial.
I like that cult around the idea of food. Like, listen, if you can cook, you're in. And we're not going to make you do weird stuff. There's not going to be any weird sex stuff with the leaders and the underage people. No. Everyone's going to just bake their hearts out. We're going to be too
full on banana bread.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, other genre pick. Remember last episode, you read something hot off the presses.
Yes.
I did the same.
You did?
Yes. This book came out on November 17th.
Holy buckets.
I had finished it within like 4 days.
Okay.
This is called What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat by Aubrey Gordon.
Oh, okay.
Now, I should mention first a social media account that I've been following for a while, and you may have heard of. It's called Your Fat Friend. It's a woman who, up to this point, was writing anonymously about what it's like living in the world as a fat woman. And she, through that social media account, she was working to teach people pretty much how to be better, how to recognize and honor difference of all kinds, but especially in body size. She always wrote anonymously because she received a shit ton of, no surprise here, death threats, rape threats, all the stuff that many outspoken women experience.
Right.
But all of them informed with like, you fat bitch, you're gonna die. Or concern trolling like, oh, I'm just worried about your health. You got to stop this.
The concern trolling
trolling.
That really gets me.
So suddenly a few months ago, this anonymous social media account, she announced she had a book coming out with her name and everything. And I snapped it up.
Oh, yeah.
So this book is a lot of things. It's part memoir, where she tells stories about her own sort of painful experiences of being fat on an airplane, in an exercise setting, in grocery stores. So here's an example.
Yeah.
She's in a grocery store once, minding her business, getting all the things on her list. She notices that there is a thin older woman following her around.
Oh, boy.
And Aubrey puts a cantaloupe into her cart, and this woman dives into the cart, pulls out the cantaloupe, and says, "That's too much sugar for you," and puts it back on the shelf.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Who does that?
Right? This woman did that. One of many, many examples of just weird behavior that somehow people justify to themselves because this is a fat person and they need your help.
No, they don't.
Here's another one, what she calls fat calling. So we all know about cat calling. Fat calling is when people, such as this instance, strangers leaning out of car windows. At one point, she's walking down the street. Someone is screaming "fat bitch" outside the car window. One time, a stranger just got into her face and told her how gross she was and how she shouldn't be walking around with short sleeves. So there's part memoir talking about some of these experiences that are horrific.
Yes.
And it's also part history, examining why we're in this moment where anti-fat bias is so extreme. Like, people feel justified in doing some of this stuff.
Right.
And then it's part sociology and culture, sort of exploring why we hate fat. Like, what is it about fat bodies that is so scary to people, disturbing to people?
Yeah.
So this is not any sort of self-help, body positive kind of thing. In fact, she says the body positive movement has started out sort of promising, but now it's been co-opted by skinny women with one stomach roll and some cellulite influencing on Instagram and selling their shit. So instead, Aubrey is pushing the discussion further. She's talking about why, for example, it's legal in 48 states to fire fat people without cause. She's talking about why it's perfectly legal and acceptable and common for doctors and healthcare to not treat fat people for actual medical conditions until they lose weight.
Yep.
Talking about why airplane seats are so fucking uncomfortable for everyone, not just fat people.
Right.
And how talking about how common it is for violence against fat people. I loved this book so much. It's a very quick read.
Yeah.
And I particularly liked her really in-depth look at why we believe what we believe about fat. You know, I think we've talked a lot about, we've had a few books here that talk about this, and this is dug the most deep, I guess, is what I would say, in that in the book she says that we see fat as failure. Fat people are unlovable. They're even morally corrupt. Fat people deserve our disgust and our scorn, but often disguised as, "Oh, I'm just worried about your health."
Right.
You know? So that's why I chose it for this theme, because I think what she says and what many other books have said is that some people are just born fat. Like some are born skinny. Our body sizes are as diverse as our height and just as meaningful, which is to say not much. And the science shows that there's no evidence that fatness equals bad health. And we're unique in body shape and size, and that is it. End of story. So no matter what size you are, I say read this. You'll feel the same way. You'll understand why this is really a matter of social justice. And you'll really understand how terrible some people are.
Wow,
the grocery store one just kills me.
That is,
And that just she's following her around.
Yeah, what are you doing? That is, yeah. I shouldn't be surprised by it, but it still is shocking. You know, that someone would have the audacity to do something like that is just beyond me.
But she goes a lot into the concern trolling kind of stuff, that every single post she makes, there's always someone like, "Why are you glorifying obesity? It's all about you. We got to make sure you're healthy, blah, blah, blah." She digs into why that's just a false way.
Yes.
And it's usually like if someone calls you on your bias, you're just, "Oh, no, I'm just worried about health." It's like a way of covering up
Absolutely.
some of this stuff.
Yes. Absolutely. Ooh, that sounds good.
It's really good. It's and I can lend it to you if you like.
Oh, yes, I would like that very much.
Okay, great.
Okay, well, all right. So for my nonfiction pick, it's not hot off the presses, but it's fairly new.
Okay. Mine was hotter off the presses.
Oh, very. Yeah, yours is like burning. Mine's like simmering.
So these are books that are burning or simmering. Okay, got it.
I don't know why we went to a burning book.
I don't know.
I would never do that. I would never do that.
Why'd we go Nazi?
I have no idea.
Oh, no.
Okay. This book is called A Very Punchable Face by Colin Jost. So this came out in July
Colin
of 2020.
Jost.
Yes. And if you don't know who that is, I'm not sure why, but
Yeah.
he's a head writer for SNL. He also co-anchors the Weekend Update on SNL. He recently married Scarlett Johansson.
Sure did.
So there you go. But this is a series of essays about his life, and they are exactly what you think. They're funny, and they're very typical of his humor style, but they're also some of the craziest stories that I've ever heard, and I never would have guessed some of the things about his background. An incredibly unique person, incredibly unique kind of lifestyle, not just because now that he's famous. I mean, obviously we kind of think celebrities have unique lifestyles because they get to do a lot of stuff. I mean, even before that, like he grew up on Staten Island, and he got a scholarship to go to a high school, so he had to commute both ways. So he spent 3 hours a day commuting to this high school. So he had to take a bus, a ferry, a subway.
Good Lord.
And he's like 14. So he's telling about things he saw on the Staten Island ferry,
boy.
like a lady just throwing a stroller overboard.
Okay.
I mean, just random things. So just that alone is a unique experience, to think that you were, going there to get this great education, but you had to go through all these kind of obstacles to get there. He went to Harvard.
Wow.
And he was there at the same time as Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh my God.
Yes. And has very specific memories of saying that's never going to be a thing. And he jokes about it a lot in the book. But yeah, he was there at the same time.
Did he predict that it would almost ruin democracy too?
No, I don't know. He didn't go that far.
Yeah.
But yeah. The book opens, he didn't start speaking until he was 4, which is very strange and odd. And so he has lots of things to say about that. But just stories like that are just very unique. His mom was the medical chief officer for the New York Fire Department.
Oh, wow.
So she was intimately involved in 9/11. She was there helping people. She was saved twice by a firefighter that day from the buildings falling on her.
Oh my God.
That's how close she was. Yeah. So a lot of really interesting stories that'll kind of touch you, but are also hilarious. He did speech and debate in high school with some of the very well-known names in the news world now, like Hallie Jackson. He remembers losing to them to, Josh Gad. He says that he didn't even keep track of him, and he went to a Broadway show and saw that. He's like, "Oh, there's another Josh Gad." And then he realized, "Oh no, that's the guy that won everything."
That's the guy.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, that's the guy. Yep. He also worked as a reporter for a Staten Island paper right out of college, which his stories from that are great. And of course, part of what I loved was there was all these little nuggets from his SNL time, sketches that he wrote. Because if you're familiar with SNL, a lot of times they don't take credit for the sketches until way after. And he talks about that's very specific because they want writers to have the freedom to kind of go a little weird.
Yeah.
And if you know your name's going to be attached to it all the time, they think that might hinder.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And it's supposed to be more collective. So they don't want people kind of keeping track of like, oh, where's this sketch, But he does say a few that he wrote. And one of them, which happens to be my husband's favorite, Drunk Uncle. I didn't know that he was responsible for all the
that's
Drunk
a beautiful
Uncles.
one.
It's so good.
Oh.
And he has a joke in there where he said, every time that aired, my uncle would text me and say, "We good?" So I picked it for this theme because it's obviously very unique. He obviously has a very unique life trajectory, but it's also, he makes fun of some of the ways in which he feels like he's not unique. I mean, he jokes about his very punchable face because he's like the whitest white guy that you've ever seen. So he talks a lot about that and his experience with that and how he's had to reconcile some of the privileges that he's had that other people might not have. And so I love that he owns all of that. And it's also really entertaining and it's funny. I myself listened to the audiobook because
is it him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Him reading it. I was like, I'm going to listen to the audiobook, and it was great. Yeah. It was wonderful. So there's a whole section in there about how many times he's actually pooped his pants as an adult. And it is more than you think. Yeah.
Oh, I know. That's gratifying.
Yeah, Mike and I had a discussion because I'm not talking about like, oh, you sort of had an accident on the way to the bathroom. He tells the stories and full on pooped his pants.
So even the head writer of SNL will poop his pants.
There's some great. I thought of you a bunch because
I poop my pants.
No, sorry, that was a bad transition.
I haven't actually. I have neared multiple times, but I have not.
Oh my God, sorry about that transition. No. Because as the head writer of SNL, before that, he was just a writer, and he worked a lot under Seth Meyers, and he attributes a lot of his success and writing abilities to Seth. He considers him a very good friend. They did some traveling together. There's some stuff about that in the book that's great.
I've gone on record as a huge fan of Seth Meyers, so that transition does make sense now.
That's why I was
it
not
wasn't
because of the
just about pooping pants. Okay, great.
No. He talks about that Seth Meyers was actually the one that asked him if he wanted to become a head writer, and he gave him a really like fancy fountain pen, and Colin's like, I still have never used that pen. I still have it because it's that special to him.
Yeah, it's from Seth Meyers.
Yeah. So
I get that.
I would
talk about one of the things I love is when Leslie Jones was on and she would flirt with him a lot.
He talks a lot about. There's a lot of little tidbits about Leslie Jones in there. Yeah. It's
I just
great.
love because she would often say like "you sexy man" and it was fantastic.
Yes.
And he would get red and it was great.
Yeah. And there's a lot of great tidbits, but what I love about it too is it's not like a tell-all gossipy like, oh, this person was terrible at SNL or this host was great or this guy. It's more just about the atmosphere, how how his particular writing process works, about how his life kind of turned out, and it's really interesting and it's a lighthearted kind of way to go through it. So I will tell you that the 9/11 chapter got me. I mean, I cried a little bit because it was intense. Him talking about his mom being there and him being worried because he knew that, she was probably there. And
it's interesting that he shares a lot with Pete Davidson, who
he
grew
does,
up in Staten Island and had a dad that died on 9/11. And wow.
He talks about that. Yeah.
About I know their age is different, but
Yeah, because he was in college at 9/11 and Pete Davidson was like 8 or 9. Yeah. But he talks about that at the beginning about how much reporters hate Pete Davidson. So they'll often say to him like, oh, we love you, but we hate. He's like, my interviews often turn into things about how much people hate Pete Davidson. Yeah. I know.
It's weird.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the interviews. I love so much when Colin Jost will show up often on Seth Meyers with Michael Che.
Yes.
And they will, do back and forth. And Che will talk about how he routinely is basically trying to get Colin Jost killed.
Yes.
Talks about how he, all the posts about like, oh, look how racist Colin is. And like, all the jokes he makes him tell. It's fantastic.
That's the best part of Weekend Update when he gets him to say something on air and you're like, oh no. Like when they were doing the thing where I wrote a joke and he hasn't seen it yet. And
it's always about Colin being like a white power guy or something.
Yeah. But it's an interesting look because I guess I knew that he was a writer for SNL, but you kind of forget that when he's on Weekend Update.
Yeah, that's true.
And you think about him behind the scenes that he said a lot more of his time and energy. I mean, it's writing the sketches and helping make sure that they go well and, working with the actors on that. And, it kind of puts a different level or characteristic
how much he's involved.
Yeah. So
did he meet Scarlett Johansson by hosting? Was she hosting? And
he did meet her the first time, and he worked there. And she claims, according to him, that she thought he was cute, and he said there's no way because he was wearing like 6-year-old New Balance sneakers and like old jeans.
So he was not representing his best self.
No,
on the
I don't
day
think
they met.
so.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, I guess you glowed up.
You did.
Colin Jost. I mean, he's
and I love that his continual joke in the book is about how punchable his face is. So
that is pretty great.
Yeah,
I have seen that cover, and I'm like, that's pretty awesome.
It's a perfect cover. Yeah. It's really enjoyable, easy read, but also unique.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah, little palate cleanser, if you will.
Well, for pop culture, I chose a documentary that is on HBO Max.
Okay.
Which you and I were earlier talking about. How the hell do we get HBO Max? Because we're apparently like 65 and we can't figure it out.
Oh my God.
So,
it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. I figured it out and I got it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm working on it. I will catch up to you. I've got some of the content, but not all for some reason.
And this is one of the things I watched first. This is pretty new. Came out just a little while ago. It's called Transhood. And the concept is fantastic. It follows 4 kids in Kansas City from 2014 to 2019. And all 4 kids are transgender, ranging in age from about 4 to about 15 at the start in 2014. And the first thing I should say is that if you look this up online, you're going to see a lot of conservative Christian backlash.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. When I was looking up like different things about the documentary just to make some notes, I saw a lot of headlines talking about, oh, these parents are forcing their kids into this for publicity, or this is pedophilia. It's real gross and real weird.
How's it? Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Just know that going in that
right.
you may see that if you Google this.
Yeah.
But here's why I think this has such a backlash, besides just the issue of trans. It shows these kids being kids, and these kids, they know they're just born a little bit different, in bodies that don't match their gender. And the documentary is it's just normal. Like, this is just what happens. And I think that's what conservatives and Christians are worried about, is that we will see these as just people, just kids, and not some sort of monsters, because they're continually trying to paint them as monsters. The documentary, it talks to these kids as well as the parents. And because it's shot over time, you see how some things change, but some don't. Like, most notably, the kids know right away who they are. And over that time, it doesn't change. They're getting almost more convinced of who they are over time. You also see some of the pain and violence they're up against just every goddamn day just for existing. And there are some super touching moments, especially when you see some of the parents supporting their kids unconditionally. It's really beautiful and refreshing to see. There's also some shocking, infuriating moments. There's a bathroom bill that passes in Kansas, where this is, that incentivizes being found out. Like, it literally gives kids who find a transgender kid in their bathroom like $2,500. Like, we've heard all sorts of these bathroom bills, right?
Oh my
but this
gosh.
is insane. So there's also one family, one mom in particular, that changes her thoughts over time in some really upsetting ways. But I chose this for this theme because it's about celebrating all the different ways that we are, including our gender expression and just how unique we are. And we're all human, and all, these arbitrary rules about who we should be and how we should look are hurtful, especially when it comes to kids, because they're just living their damn lives. They're great kids. You're really going to like them as you watch this. You're going to like some of their parents even more. It's wonderful.
Wow, that sounds great. I'll have to see if I get that on my version of HBO Max.
You will see too, because it's shot from 2014 to 2019, you kind of know what some things are coming. Like, in 2016, oh shit, here we go, with politics.
Right.
Once we're in 2017, some things are changing nationally wise. So yeah, it's a ride.
I love that they shot it over time.
I know, it's so cool.
Yeah, lots of context.
Yeah, and you get to grow with these kids, as some of them are taking treatments, and one of them is old enough that she's seeking gender confirmation surgery. So you see her talking to the doctor, and it's really interesting.
Interesting. Well, I also picked something for pop culture from HBO or HBO Max or whatever version I have. I got to watch it on there. And it's a dark comedy that came out in 2018, and there is already confirmed a second season, but there's just one season out right now, so you can catch up before it comes out. It's called The Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, I never did see this.
It is something.
Okay.
So it stars John Goodman as the head of an evangelical televangelist family. So they make their money by being on TV and preaching the good word.
Preaching that word.
And Danny McBride is the oldest son, Jesse. So he's supposed to take over the family business, and he has a family with 3 boys, including Gideon, who is played by Skylar Gisondo, who was the wannabe rapper from Booksmart.
Oh my God.
Yes, that I thought was so funny. So he plays Gideon, his son.
Great.
And so Jesse, played by Danny McBride, he's a huge jerk and not at all aware of how ridiculous he is and how much his family's falling apart around him. Adam Devine is the youngest son, Kelvin, who is also the youth pastor.
Oh, no.
And his character alone is worth watching the show for.
Yeah, okay.
Edie Patterson plays Judy, who's the daughter that's right in the middle. And she's spoiled and bratty and basically struggling for any kind of acceptance as a female in her family's very religious world. So this is their struggle to maintain their dominance and kind of actually even live their beliefs, particularly as a loving family. Their mother, Amy Lee, who's...
Amy Lee?
Yeah, that's her name, Amy Lee.
That's my first and middle name.
She's played by Jennifer Nettles on the show, who is, if you are a country fan, like Sugarland, and I think she went out on her own a little bit.
Okay.
She has a beautiful voice, which I didn't even recognize her. I saw that later, but anyway. So she's in there sometimes with the flashback things, but she died, and so the family has been struggling to figure out how to get along. The dad can't seem to bring them all together, and in the background is this thing that they make money hand over fist. So they're there's some corruption there because it's about the money now, and it's not really about the Bible or the teachings.
Yeah.
They're going into small towns and poaching churches basically to get their believers. Yeah. So it's interesting. The supporting cast is also amazing. You have Walter Goggins, who plays baby Billy Freeman. Just some great storytelling, some great writing. It's a dark comedy, so there's a lot of humor, but in a weird way, I actually ended up rooting for some of the characters. Not all of them, and not for a lot of reasons, because it's a really clever show in the sense that it's pointing out how ridiculous this stuff is, but at the heart of it, it's also just a show about family and how sometimes in our need to be seen a certain way, we don't always do the most loving things for the members of our family, or we're not as accepting of the people that live right next to us as we should be. Or we're not living what we say we believe in. So there's a lot of that. I picked it for this theme because it's an example to me of trying to strip away someone's uniqueness, and ultimately it's always going to come out.
Yeah.
Like each of these kids are almost being molded to be a very specific thing, to keep this money train going, to be a preacher, to bring the money in, to be a certain way, to look a certain way. But really, they're all very unique. And if they could just use those talents, they'd probably be better served. Yeah. But, they can't do that. So all the kids are unique, and they're all really uniquely messed up. So, and it's good. Mike and I binge watched it so fast. It was so funny.
I remember seeing the trailers for it, and it looked hilarious. I don't think at the time I had HBO, so I couldn't watch it.
Right.
Now I can because I got Max.
You got the stuff now.
I got the Max.
Whatever that means, you got it.
I got it.
You got it. And I will tell you that there's a song in there called Misbehavin' it's a flashback scene at one time that Amy Lee and her brother, when they were younger, they became popular for. So that's how this whole money train got started. Oh. And they sing and dance to it. And I found out that they wrote that song for that show. And I think it won an Emmy.
Oh my
and
gosh.
It is worth it because holy buckets. That was I thought for sure it was an old song. I thought for sure it was an old real song. Wow. And they wrote it for the show. It's unbelievable.
Do you think we could make money televangelizing for our food-based religion?
Yeah. I think you have to just be confident and believe in it, and don't let anyone get in your way is what I learned from them.
So it doesn't really matter how good
if you need to run them over with a Range Rover, that's okay. That is okay.
So it doesn't matter how good the banana bread is.
No.
It just matters that we use
if
power.
You can sell it.
Okay, if we can sell it. Okay.
If you can sell it.
Yeah.
And you can have a really big church with big plates for people to put money in and a vault to keep it in.
So they put money in, and then they get a slice of banana bread.
Yeah.
And then we say, all your sins have been forgiven.
Yep.
Okay.
And your slice of banana bread depends on how big of a money item you put in the plate.
That's a good point. If you don't put a lot in, you just get a corner or something.
Just get a little nugget. Keep working at it.
Nugget. But you put a lot in, you get a thick hunk.
It's good stuff.
Yeah,
it really
This is good.
It is something. It's a great name.
So another season is coming.
Yes, another season. Now it got delayed, obviously, like everything else because of the pandemic. Now I did hear, and I don't know if it's true because we're kind of around Christmas time, and I haven't heard anything else about it. But Danny McBride was quoted as saying they were trying to put together a 1-hour Christmas special of them doing a Christmas special, and he said that was a go, but I don't know because we all know we kind of hit this second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever wave we're in.
Yeah, we're just in the waves.
We're in it.
Just
so I'm not sure that's happening, but they did say in 2021 season 2 will be out. So,
man, 2021 might be a lot of stuff. A lot of pent up pop culture coming at us.
And what I also like about this, I do want to say, because if the premise you're like, there's some redeeming qualities about the characters too. That is an interesting way I think that they took the writing, that you end up kind of wanting them to succeed, which is
that's a lot.
Yeah,
you can make a unlikable character, perhaps.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We were born this way.
Yeah, born this way, Lady Gaga. I'm picturing her song fading out and us just being like, that's it.
Oh, I was picturing the mucus again. There was a lot.
Right to the mucus. All right.
I just remember playing the video and I was like, whoa, I did not remember this graphic, weird space.
See, I did remember, which is why I didn't rewatch the video.
See. Okay,
right?
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate it as an artistic endeavor.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go on his record as saying I don't like anything of Lady Gaga because I just really celebrate all of her.
Of course.
But
that video, you were not.
It's something.
Yeah. But then a few years later, she was in, Thank
Star
You.
is Born.
Suddenly, all the words just went away.
Well,
yeah.
it happens. Yeah.
Oh, but Born This Way, Stars Born.
Stars. So many Borns.
So many Borns.
So many Borns.
Okay.
Well.
Now
I have Shallow in my head. And it's like I'm in a Starbucks again.
Oh my God, that was everywhere. Can you imagine sitting in a Starbucks right now and just hearing Shallow? I would go do that.
I would probably cry.
Yeah.
I'd probably just be crying in my coffee.
Oh, I'd just be happy that 2020 is over because I assume that's going to happen.
That's what I mean.
6
Yeah,
months
I
from
would just
now.
be like, how could this be any better?
Yes.
And before I would be like
happy. Yeah.
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 I don't know when I'll ever sit in a Starbucks again.
I don't either. I don't know when I'll feel comfortable going anywhere, really.
I know. It's like I always knew everything was a dumpster fire,
Yeah.
and then you actually find out it is, and you're like, oh, well, now there's no going back. The good news is while this might not be over, we will be back.
We sure will.
Next Wednesday.
We will. And until then,
happy reading.